What's up guys, Jake from MACkite here today with the 2022 Duotone truss bar and the 2022 Duotone click bar. So we're going to go over what these bars have in common, what the major differences are, and then we're going to try to figure out which bar is right for you. So let's get into it. So both of these bars are going to fly on high V configurations. Duotone kites do use a high V split, which means the center lines actually fork off at the top rather than right above the cockpit here. One of the exceptions, or one of the differences right off the bat, is going to be with the click bar. You're actually able to adjust that V split, and you can remove it entirely. So you're able to fly this bar both with high V kites like Duotone, but also low V kites like most other brands on the market, Carina, Nash, Slingshot, etc. So if you are not flying exclusively Duotone, or you think you might be changing a quiver in the future, right off the bat you'll probably want to go click. There's other reasons to consider the click. Let's get back to the similarities. They do both use the same kit mechanism. It's important to note that these bars are sold without the loop. So if you buy this bar and you don't include a loop or have one already, I guess you're going to be riding unhooked. They have 4 different options. There's going to be the standard free ride. These have the freestyle, which is some more standard size. There's a wake style, which is just ridiculously large if you're doing a lot of unhook tricks. And then there's a surf knuckle if you're using it with a sliding mechanism. They both use the Duotone 99 new line material, which is really nice. It's a thinner diameter line. It's a little bit snappier, and you do notice the difference right off the bat. Duotone kites have that as well on their bridles. And honestly, it's shockingly thin. You look and you're like, there's no way this is going to last. But it results in a much more responsive kite. So I've been really impressed with that. In the past, people have critiqued Duotone lines. The big reason for that is they're braided and they don't have like a wax coating like a lot of other brands do. So you do see them shed occasionally. And when you see that, you just don't want to be seeing that on your bar. It doesn't feel good to look at. It doesn't really compromise the integrity because they're woven with so many strings. But still, that has been a point of ire for people in the past. And I haven't noticed that on these bars. And the coating does feel a little bit waxier, so let's hope that is behind Duotone. They both do have the bar floats here, and they are available in different sizes. So the click bar here is available in a small and medium size. The small is going to be 20 meter lines with 2 meter extensions for a total of 22 meters. And then the medium bar is available in a 12-24, so 12 meter lines with 12 meter extensions, and then a 22-24. That's the much more standard size, and those extensions come already attached. So if you do want to take advantage of the smaller line length, you have to go ahead and remove those. The small bar is going to be 42 centimeters, and that's what we have right here, and the larger bar is going to be 49. With the truss bar, with both of these bars, line size is kind of determined by the length of the bar, or maybe the length of the bar determines line size. Either way, on the 19 meter and 22 meter lines, it's going to feature the small medium bar, which is going to be 42 centimeters to 49 centimeters. So what's the big secret to adjustment? You simply go right here, click that, pops out. This is something you generally want to do when the kite's not under load. So when you're sitting on the beach or you're sitting in front of a camera filming a video, you can see how easy it is. I have had to adjust it on the fly before. You can do it, but there's a lot more pressure. So you're going to go ahead, just give that a little spin. Click it back in, listen for that little auditory feedback, and you're good to go. Make sure, if you're switching back and forth quite a bit, that these match. So this one, if it's in, should also be in. I know in a previous video of mine, I was flying where one was in, one was out, and it just looked so foolish. It was embarrassing. So let's go ahead, flap that right over so future videos with this bar look correct. So when you do flip that, you can see it just merely changes the position of where these flying lines are relative to the bar. So again, on the small medium bar, that is 42 to 49 centimeters. And on the medium large bar, which is going to include the line sizes of 24, which this one is, and 27, which is less common, but people use it for the really big kites, that is going to be 46 to 52 centimeters, I believe. So when you're flying a larger kite, it generally makes sense to go with a larger bar. Smaller kite, adjust that to the smaller bar. Or if you're doing a lot of wake style tricks where you want that kite to sit there parked, go with the smaller bar because you'll get less feedback. So the big difference between these bars is going to be how they depower. The truss bar is a very traditional depower system in that it uses this cleat system right up here. So if you want to depower, you simply pull in on this. Go ahead, it hooks in on these teeth, and then you can either let this dangle or you can go ahead and stick it to the Velcro so it's not swinging as you do any kind of rotational tricks. If you want to repower the kite, you go ahead, just pull down and out, and then you can even let this go and it's going to go ahead and snap right out. Most kite brands on the market use a depower system like this. It's really reliable, works well, no major downsides to it. So that's what you get with this. It's just a classic depower system. Now over here, we got one bad mama jamba. As the name implies, this uses a click system for depowering. Right over here on the bar end, if you want to depower, you simply go ahead and click that in. What that's going to do is actually adjust the rear lines of the kite, which is kind of a trip. Over here on this system, you're adjusting the center line. So this is actually changing the length of the rear lines. So you go ahead and press that to depower. This feature is particularly nice if you're using it with a foil kite or a surf kite, because generally in those disciplines, body position is really important. So if you're surfing a wave or you're really precariously balanced on your foil and you have to reach up, that's going to change your entire balance on the board. This, you're simply flying, you need a little depower, bam, 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 bam. You're good. If you need to repower, you go ahead and just simply twist that upwards and it'll re-engage. You have a little bar right here that you can follow to see power and depower. In theory, between the two, if you're trying to figure out which one will have more or less depower, you probably get a little bit more nuance here if you use it. You know, you can pull in a little bit, you can really set the position on the rope. As a general rule, I find that that's not how it plays out. I generally pull it in halfway, pull it in all the way, or leave it unpowered. With the click bar, you do have that more variability, you know, so maybe I'll give it 2 clicks, it's not quite enough, I'll move it down another 2. So in practice, I do find that I play with my depower range more on with the click bar than on the truss bar. That's just me, user experience may vary. The other difference you'll get right here is this PU tubing that goes on the center lines. So this is really, really nice. It's very smooth as you're doing rotational tricks. This spinner right here will actually spin the PU tubing as well. It just leads to a very smooth, controlled experience, and I really, really like it. On a few occasions, here's the little asterisk, I have had where maybe this is caught right here, and then on a rotational trick, this stays locked in place rather than spinning, and then it actually twists. If it twists enough, because this is a rectangular mechanism in here, that PU tubing can't spin around itself, and all of a sudden your bar is locked in place. If this happens, you can kind of give it a jostle and spin it, and it'll go ahead and reset that. But in a moment where you come down hot out of a rotational trick and you can't depower, sometimes you're like, whoa, this is a bad situation. And that is a little glitch with that. Another glitch with these PU tubings is you can't monitor the length of your kite life or your line length life. Over here, if you're looking at this, you can generally see, hey, I think it's time to swap this out. It looks pretty worn. Here, you have no idea. So you're out sessioning one day, and bam, your kite's in the water, your line broke in here. Because this PU tubing is pretty solid, sometimes moisture does stay trapped in there, and that's going to impact the length of these lines as well. Whether you're in fresh water or salt water, whether you're rinsing your bar, which you should always do, those are all going to be factors in how long your bar lasts, your lines last. So make sure to give that the fresh water rinse. We have gotten feedback from people wondering if this mechanism is going to get gummed up. It's not something we've experienced. I've certainly heard of it, but I've heard a lot of things out there. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but we have pretty soft sand that really gets into everything. For example, it just kills our pumps all the time here because it goes right into the seal. And I haven't experienced this getting gummed up. We've been using these for years now, and it's just not something I've experienced. But again, we have fresh water here, so that I think helps keep some of that brine away. So just make sure to give it a rinse, and that shouldn't be a problem. Okay, so which bar is right for you? They will both fly your Duotone kite the same. They're both very nice bars. The diameters feel very similar to one another. They're comfortable. I think for me, it comes down to how many bells and whistles do you want. If I was strictly or doing a lot of foil kiting or surf kiting, I probably would opt for the click bar. I think the ability to just go up here and depower and power without disrupting my body position is a really, really nice feature. And on those days where I'm going out on a surf or foil board, I do grab the click bar most of the time. Other than that, you know, if you just like this sliding PU tube, if you like the idea of something pretty techy, the click bar is really, really cool. There's not many drawbacks to it. And I think the ability to also use it with other kites is a really, really big factor. If you just you're flying your Duotone kite, you don't need all the bells and whistles, you just want something that's going to perform really well and be reliable, that's where the truss bar is a great option. Personally, I'm flying the truss bar this year just because of that simplicity. I'm bouncing around with brands a little bit more to try to get more reviews. So I'm not staying locked in on the click bar, and that's why I'm going with the truss bar. Lastly, let's just do a really quick comparison because we have them out and about in front of us here as to some differences in the actual lengths. So just really quickly, we'll go ahead and measure the throw on the truss bar. Again, this is the medium large. Go ahead and get this out in front of us. And this is going to be in inches because I could not find a centimeter. I couldn't find a metric measuring tape, so I'm really sorry about that. As they say in Star Wars, Imperial scum, and that's what you're getting here. So we're going to go ahead. This is how it comes out of the box. So we'll start right here. And you've got about 19 inches of throw. One little addendum here is you actually can change the position of this. So if you want the cockpit brought down closer, you're going to have a little bit less throw. You can bring that down, and that will adjust the amount of depower you'll have, so you'll actually gain it. If you want a longer throw, you can go ahead and move that up. But again, that's going to be at the expense of depower. So this is 19 inches stock. It looks like we got about another 7 inches above there that you can play with if you really want to maximize that throw. Now let's go ahead and look at the click bar. Go ahead and flip these lines around. This is going to be a little bit trickier to measure because this PU tubing is a little bit harder to negotiate. But stretched relatively straightly, we have 22 inches. So this throw is going to be a bit longer than this one stock, unless you change where the cleat is sitting. Another really nice thing about this is the stopper ball. The truss bar doesn't have that. Again, you can adjust the cleat, but this, you can actually adjust this up and down. So if you do want to bring the cockpit closer to you, you can go ahead and move that down here. And it stays locked in place, but not so much where in an emergency, if you need more depower, you can actually push against that, and it'll go ahead and push this all the way up here, so you do get your full depower range, so there's no safety considerations there. Lastly, because we have a small bar and a medium large bar, let's go ahead and stack these on top of one another. Right there you can see the size difference. And it is notable. It's kind of like this bar will almost fit inside of this bar. One of the important considerations when deciding if you're going to go with the truss bar or the click bar is obviously price. And the truss bar is less expensive. It starts at $500. If you go with the 22 or 24 meter bar, it's going to be $520 or $540. Remember, again, you do have to add the kit unless you have an older bar that you can go ahead and unscrew and put it on your new one. The click bar, on the other hand, is going to start at $690 for the smaller bar and $710 for the larger bar. It's pretty steep, but again, if you're somebody who's going to be using it a lot and benefit from those features, I think it's probably worth it, especially if you take care of it. This bar should last you quite a while. In fact, both should. Again, remember the freshwater rinse. Keep track of when things are wearing out and make sure to swap out those parts. And depending on where you're kiting, you can get anywhere from 3 to 5 years out of these bars, maybe more if you have the luxury of not sessioning a lot. In which case, my condolences. Hopefully you move to a longer spot, a windier spot, where your gear wears out a lot faster because you get to ride more. Guys, as always, thanks for checking us out. This has been Jake from MACkite.